Bet horse racing on DRF Bets. We'll match your first deposit of $200. Get free expert picks and past performances, plus weekly cash back. All from Daily Racing Form, the most trusted name in horse racing. Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Mike Beard, taking a look back at the 2022 Breeders' Cup. In this video, we'll take a peek at the turf won by Rebels Romance. We're going to break from the gate, going 1.5 miles at Keeneland. Of course, this race, a 3-turn race. Several horses didn't break very well in here. One of the Europeans, Broom, Nation's Pride off a little bit slow. Mishriff, Bye Melvin was away quickly. He makes the lead. Warlike Goddess is number 2 and sort of settling in mid-pack along the inside under Joel Rosario.
Yeah, I think she got a good trip in this race overall, Dan. She broke fine. She was never too far away in this race. She got to save a ton of ground. When we eventually, get around this circuit one more time, you'll see her come clear in the stretch and have basically every chance to win. She's just not quite good enough here. Bye Melvin, you knew he was going to the lead. He does go to the lead. He cuts the pace. He's just not nearly good enough.
Hovering near the back of the pack at this juncture is the number 5 Rebels Romance, coming into this race off a couple of group wins in Germany. The pace is solid. I wouldn't say fast. I wouldn't say slow. You see Rebels Romance getting off the rail at that point, and the trip is kind of going to work out for him.
Yeah, everything works out fine for this horse who, it felt like there was a chance he could be favored here, Dan. He's undefeated on turf at this point. All of those wins are at 1.5 miles, and he's shipping over for Charlie Appleby and Godolphin, who win everything over here. But he goes off at almost 6-1. And yeah, just about everything really works out for him as far as his trip goes. They rated him back. This is exactly how they rode him in all of those turf wins over in Europe earlier this year. Dan took him back, let him settle. They would take him clear in the stretch and let his strong finish do the rest. That's exactly what happens here. They get him out into the clear. He finishes strong.
The 2 3-year-olds are close to each other. The 3 Stone Age is enjoying a beautiful pocket trip. Right to his outside in the blue is the favorite in the race, Nation's Pride. Nation's Pride will encounter a little bit of trouble.
Nation's Pride, I guess he's in behind horses here, Dan. I don't really see a big excuse for this horse as the favorite in this race. He's going to take maybe a little bit of a shuffle here around the second turn, but he just doesn't really have any kind of a finish when this running starts. And it's not like he got totally stopped here around the turn. Stone Age got an absolute perfect trip, and he's got dead aim on the leaders right now. He does his best with that trip. He's only second best. Warlike Goddess is right behind him, coming through splitting horses now towards the 2-path. She's got every chance here, Dan. She's not quite good enough.
I agree. Warlike Goddess, for a brief instant at the 3/16th pole, looked like she was really going to fire a big shot, but Rebels Romance had a better kick. We saw him get to the outside at the top of the stretch, split horses well about 6 or 7 wide, but avoiding any sort of trouble, and he just simply blew by the good trip Stone Age and outfinished Warlike Goddess for the win. We'll talk a little bit about Stone Age, Mike. This is a horse that didn't duck competition, whether it was here, whether it was in Europe. He ran very well with the perfect trip. He's only 3. He will be back for more racing internationally in 2023. And I guess there's a lot to like if you're already handicapping Breeders' Cup 2023.
Yeah, listen, he is what he is. They've run this horse a lot, as those connections tend to do. And, for the most part, he stood up pretty well in some pretty tough races, Dan. This Breeders' Cup turf was another one of those. He ran fine in this race. He got, as we've already talked about, he got a great trip and ride in here from Ryan Moore. And he did what he can do. Is he, one of the best European turf horses around? No. He's probably second or third tier over there. But when you come over here to run in our turf races, you're always going to be really tough. And, just having that tactical speed that he has is a big advantage for him.
And to highlight your point, Mike, I mean, just look at the North American-based males in this race. Channel Maker, the old veteran, finishing 7th. Masterpiece, 8th. Bye Melvin, 9th. And we go all the way down to Highland Chief in 12th. Nautilus was the South American invader coming in from Brazil at a big price. Warlike Goddess, of course, we thought coming into this race was the best of the longer distance turf horses, regardless of sex. She ran well, and the good news is it appears she's going to run again next year.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have her back next year again. She's really tough against the filly mare set. Obviously, they just have a whale of a time beating her. I suspect coming back next year, Dan, we'll see her against the boys a lot, and she could win some pretty big races.
Mishriff ran well. Maybe it was just finding the right field in here. He didn't break great. He was sort of near the back of the pack. He came extremely wide into the stretch. He just couldn't finish with the likes of Rebels Romance, but it was nice to see him back into form. I think there were a lot of questions that maybe he was tailing off a little bit coming into this race.
Yeah, he did run fine here. He didn't break great, which I guess was a little bit of a problem for him, and he was pretty far back there. And he was really wide as they came off the final turn. But it's not like he was in some kind of terrible position. He was right alongside Rebels Romance when this field turned into the stretch. Yes, it was a path wider, but they were both on the far outside. They were basically right together, and Rebels Romance just ran away from Mishriff in here. He ran fine in here just to get a piece of it, but he never looked like he was going to win.
We saw Broom didn't break very well. He eventually was able to get up for a piece. He was bet down to 6-1 in this race. I kind of think we know what we have with Broom. He's sort of exposed at the Group 1 level. Maybe if he stayed in North America, he would make hay. I'm not sure he's a true European Group 1 against the likes of Rebels Romance, etc., and some of the really good ones over there. But he's okay, and maybe we'll see him back.
Yeah, that's exactly how I look at him too. He's fine. He's not a top class European, but he can win races over there for sure. It was interesting. He's another one who was, I guess, compromised by the break. His last 2 starts now in North America, they brought him to Saratoga for the Sword Dancer too, and he broke terribly in that race as well. So that's a real problem for him. And it was just sort of interesting to see both in the Sword Dancer and here. They just, after he broke poorly, they didn't get aggressive with him at all. If you remember the Breeders' Cup Turf from last year, Dan, they got pretty aggressive with him and made a big early move into the race, and he ran great. And they didn't do that in either of his last 2 starts over here.
Let's take a closer look at Rebels Romance, who we will see in 2023 as he is a gelded son of Dubawi, a 4-year-old. He earned a 107 Beyer speed figure in the turf. He's going to finish off 2022 with 5 consecutive stakes wins and 3 grade or Group 1s after 2 Group 1s in Germany. He's also pretty good on the dirt. He won the UAE Derby as a 3-year-old. And if Godolphin and Appleby had some concerns when Yabir was sidelined and couldn't defend his 2021 Breeders' Cup Turf title, well, Rebels Romance put that to bed. This was a very impressive late kick.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool horse. His turf form is obviously very, very strong. As you pointed out, he's a good dirt horse as well. These connections tend to come over here and support the races stateside. So maybe we'll get to see him a couple of times next year too, Dan. Who knows how much better this horse can get?
Appleby's eaten good at the neighborhood, especially in Breeders' Cup races over the last few years. Let's take a look at the prices. Rebels Romance was the other Godolphin in this race, $13.92. Stone Age, a really good trip, finishes second, and the really talented mare Warlike Goddess ran third after splitting horses in the stretch. 5-3-2 in the Breeders' Cup Turf, but it's Godolphin and Charlie Appleby's world with Rebels Romance.